And Ryan Ferries and Michael Olson here in the finals. Saw both of them pick up wins just a bit ago in the semifinals.
Ryan Ferries, our 3rd seed, will be on the play against the 8th seed, Michael Olson. Byrne loves being on the play. A healthy number of my modern match losses have been being on the draw against a Byrne deck.
And here we go. Game number 1. Ryan Ferries on the play. Starting on Sacred Foundry, and he's got a Goblin Guide. We'll swing that one in.
And that's what you don't want to see from the other side of the table.
Now, Scavenging Ooze is shown, not drawn. It'll be drawn next turn. A card that's decent enough in this matchup, though on the draw, it is a bit hard to get going.
If Olson has some early removal spells, his build has 4 Lightning Bolts and 2 Fatal Push in the main, then that's good. Scavenging Ooze is one of his better cards.
Inquisition of Kozilek from Michael Olson. It's not the removal spell, but off Black Cleave Cliffs, it's not a Shockland, it's not a Thoughtseize. Looks at the hand, we see 2 Lava Spikes, a Searing Blaze, and land number 2. So Michael, he'll take care of that creature, no Eidolon.
Right. Creature enchantment going in the graveyard. That could matter for a Tarmogoyf.
Absolutely. Gonna write those ones down. So 9 more points of burn in Ryan's hand. Michael at 18, so Ryan's gonna need some extra supplies. Looks like draws Lightning Bolt for the turn.
He knows about Scavenging Ooze, so he kind of wants to leave this fetch land up so he knows he'll have Searing Blaze if that's all Olson can produce on the next turn.
Yeah, this is tough, though, that Goblin Guide shows that the next draw is another Inquisition of Kozilek.
With that being the case, I'm a little bit inclined to just fire off some spells here.
Yeah, it looks like he's going to Lava Spike Michael to 13. Yeah, with Michael drawing that Inquisition, it's unlikely he'll just make Scavenging Ooze into this fetch land.
Right.
Tap land and a pass from Olson. That's got to be Lightning Bolt, right?
Yeah, you have to figure that. Can't afford to take too much more damage off this Goblin Guide. And he would cast the Inquisition there. It doesn't get better over time.
I guess this makes sense. We see Lightning Bolt end step Michael to 10. As long as Michael doesn't make a creature here, then he can take his time on Inquisitioning that Searing Blaze.
Right. Yeah, that gets stranded in the hand for a bit. I can't cast it without having a creature to target.
So Michael Olson down to 10. We go back over to Ryan. And Ryan's got to be a bit suspicious here as well. He'll play Monastery Swift Spear. And his opponent didn't play an Inquisition that he knows he drew.
Right.
Now he'll Lava Spike Michael at 7.
And at least 2 of these are coming across.
Right, so Michael will be at 5. Tarmogoyf the top card.
Yet to draw a land off of any of these Goblin Guide triggers.
I actually think he may not have another land.
I'm seeing a lot of spells.
So Lightning Bolt will take care of the Swift Spear.
And if that's the case, he has to choose between setting up a blocker or Inquisitioning that Searing Blaze.
So he plays Tarmogoyf. This means that Ryan Ferries might just dump a Searing Blaze onto the Tarmogoyf if he has the
lands and
chance.
spells are both kind of fine draws, depending on the spell, I suppose.
Yeah, Michael needed land 3 there, and it's going to cost him some life points that he didn't have it.
Right.
5/6. It's the main 4 plus enchantment. If Ryan drew a land, he'll get to empty his hand here.
I think it was a Boros Charm, which is pretty good.
It's good. It's
worst possible is a second Searing Blaze.
Yeah.
Like a Monastery Swift Spear would be a pretty bad draw. Most of his draws do a lot.
It's Eidolon of the Great Revel.
Ooh, that one's really good. It's going to cost Michael 2 life if he wants to hit the Searing Blaze.
And he draws a Thoughtseize. Well, that's just not a card here.
Right.
Not into Eidolon.
I'm not going to take 4, especially because he already has the Inquisition.
And if he plays any spell, even that Scavenging Ooze, he goes to 3, which means he's dead just to so much.
Well, he's dead to a land with that Searing Blaze he already knows about.
But he might have to do it if he goes to, he's going to, because if he goes to 2 anyway, what does it matter?
You just check Ryan on remembering that trigger. He does. Yeah. He's at 3. Here's Boros Charm. That's game.
Yeah, I would say he's dead to a land and to a burn spell, so he's hoping for
a creature.
Without haste?
Yeah, that doesn't.
For nothing?
Yeah, that's not really stuff.
Yeah, a Swift Spear. He's hoping for exactly Monastery Swift Spear.
Right.
Game 1 goes over to Ryan Ferries. Michael Olson, a pretty good start with multiple Inquisition of Kozileks, but a lot of things have to go his way to take them on the draw. And Ryan Ferries
Needed at
Yeah.
least a third land there, and Goblin Guy just didn't help him out.
You're in that 15-minute win. Ryan Ferry's on pace. So we'll look at the sideboards. Michael Olson, not as much for this matchup as Jund players sometimes bring.
Yes, we have 4 Fulminator Mage, 2 Nihil Spellbomb, 2 Ancient Grudge, a Huntmaster of the Fells, and Engineered Explosives, a Liliana the Last Hope, a Collective Brutality, a Fatal Push, the third Fatal Push, an Anger of the Gods, and a Chandra Pyromaster. The best card here, by a pretty wide margin, is Collective Brutality. He's definitely going to want to draw this one. That third Fatal Push, that's quite good in the matchup. I frequently see Jund players reach for Fulminator Mage against Burn. As you saw there, Ryan was functioning on 2 lands and doesn't play basic planes, so you can bump him off of being able to cast white spells, block his creatures. It's a little clunky, but it does the job in a lot of spots. I think that Engineered Explosives is a little bit too inefficient as far as answering creatures. Huntmaster of the Fells is a pretty reasonable haymaker to have, though.
Yeah, do you think, is Huntmaster of the Fells stronger than, say, Bloodbraid Elf on the same mana cost here?
I feel like it is.
Okay. Likely we'll see it come in. On Ferry's side, 4 Destructive Revelry, 3 Searing Blood, 2 Rest in Peace, 2 Deflecting Balm, 2 Exquisite Firecraft, and 2 Ensnaring Bridge. Just like Michael doesn't have much sideboard, I'm not sure how much Ryan has.
I don't know if any of these cards are good. The one thing I'm kind of looking at is Exquisite Firecraft, just because it's one card that's good for 4 damage.
I was thinking the same thing. When you're playing an attrition game like that, you might get hit by Inquisition, so the heavier the cards you draw, the better it is.
Right. Yeah, you're facing down discard spells, Liliana of the Veil. Just having cards that hit for more damage per card, that can be a big deal. I don't feel like you're too likely to be able to Deflecting Palm a Tarmogoyf, though. That it is a dream that I'm sure some Burn players have dreamt.
Well, the problem is that Michael Olson's a discard deck, so he gets to see your hand. And while you might get a Goyf with it, you also might get no damage for it. And that's just not okay.
You might have a card stuck in your hand that you're never able to convert.
Right, and then eventually they'll wait till they draw a Liliana of the Veil, and you'd hate to have that not convert into anything. You don't have many cards to give away.
Yep. Yeah, so light sideboarding, if any. Mostly that Exquisite Firecraft.
Yeah. In this matchup on Olson's side, where does the card Dark Confidant play into things?
It is a dicey one.
Yeah. You're going to keep it in, right?
It's often a part of your game plan. Just drawing extra cards is so important.
Yeah.
You want to lower your mana curve for sure. When he's only on 1 Brutality on the sideboard, he might just have to board out Dark Confidant.
Yeah. On the play, maybe he can go for some of them. On the draw, it's... I'd hate to see my opponent play like a turn 2 Eidolon, and then I make a Dark Confidant into it, and I just look at the board, and I've already lost the game.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, I'm at 16. This Dark Confidant's about to hit me. I'm going to lose 2 more when I remove this Eidolon.
Right.
He's got some burn in his hand. This is bad.
It's tough. Obviously, the 3 and the 4 mana spells are the highest impact thing he has, with the exception of that 1 Collective Brutality. So you want to have a bunch of 1 mana spells, and if you're casting a bunch of 1 mana spells, Dark Confidants fit really nicely into that game plan. But just the fact that it can deal 5-6 damage to you, and sometimes much more, that's a pretty serious liability.
Well, Michael will be on the play this game. Like I said, he had the pieces last game to get the win. As far as spells are concerned,
Got to be able to cast them.
Right. He had some pain-free Inquisitions, Lightning Bolts, plus a Tarmogoyf. That is the right formula for the matchup. But just that missing, I don't even know how many more lands needed. A third one may have been enough.
Third one would have let him discard spell plus Tarmogoyf on an earlier turn. Or even Scavenging Use plus activate right away. And he might have been fine with a third. And it looks like Michael has kept. Ryan's going to give his hand a think. Burn is a deck that you don't want to mulligan with. It's just you're trying to get a critical mass of things. In particular, on the draw, your creatures tend to be a lot worse, both because Jund, in particular, gets to set up an untapped land on the first turn, leave up Lightning Bolt, Fatal Push, immediately answer Goblin Guide. Also, they get to cast Tarmogoyf. maybe take one hit off of something, but they have to get the creatures online really quickly. And Ryan is going to 6. We'll see if he's able to keep his 6-card hand.
Of course, burn the kind of deck that too many discard spells fired off at it and it stops working.
Yeah, there's definitely a spectrum of how well decks mulligan in Modern. Burn's on the low side of things.
Ryan happy with his 6. He'll take the scry and ship it to the bottom. So, game number 2, Michael Olson going to try to equalize here in the finals. No turn 1 discard spell. Ryan will make a Goblin Guide for Michael. This is before the reveal is going to crack his fetch.
Yeah. If you really desperately want a land, you might let the trigger resolve and then crack your fetch land because you get a check there and then check the top of your deck later. Michael has a number of lands in hand, and I think he has a Fatal Push as well with this untapped Swamp.
Top card is Raging Ravine, so he'll get that land regardless. And Fatal Push will shoot down the Goblin Guide. Michael keeping himself up at 19. And looks like we have a follow-up here in Tarmogoyf. Already a 3-4, so we're out of Searing Blaze range, and this is a pretty good start for Jund.
Right. Land, instant creature. Not hard to get that set up in the matchup, and the Tarmogoyf races very effectively.
On Ferry's side. See, he has a 4-point damage spell, but that's Boros Charm. Not going to help too much here. He'll say go. With Goyf in play, he's going to now rely on his burn spells. Raging Ravine for Cohen. That was the land he found off of Goblin Guide.
One of the cards in Ryan's hand is a Monastery Swift Spear. Didn't have the option to really leverage that last turn, given the Tarmogoyf.
Olson hits in for 3, sending Ryan to 17. Fouls up with Scavenging Ooze. Ryan, though, has plays on end step.
That Ooze is definitely more bad news for Ryan. It's already one creature in the graveyard.
Now, fortunately, when he eats the creature, Tarmogoyf will shrink down, but Ooze will get bigger. It'll stay the same, and Michael Olson will gain a life.
And with this Boros Charm here, you saw Michael reaching for that Scavenging Ooze, worried about a Searing Blaze. That would have been a bit better for Ryan, but it was just Boros Charm.
See if Michael can get that Searing Blaze. One more shot at it, but draws Stomping Ground. And Monastery Swift here from Ryan. And he'll just pass.
And plays Bloodstained Mire for turn, so 3 cards left over. One of them is that Stomping Ground.
Michael Olson will go back over here. 2 more lands. He's got a Stomping Ground and a Verdant Catacombs. Bloodbraid Elves in hand.
The deck does have a second basic Swamp, so you can take 1 to get to 4 mana off of that.
Yeah, 14 and 16 are life totals. So with himself being so high on life, he might be able to trade some damage. Don't think he has to leave all these creatures back as defenders.
Right.
And Abrupt Decay takes care of the blocker. With 2 creatures in the yard, this leaves Michael free to pump Scavenging Ooze at least once. And that's what he'll do. Michael up to 15, Ooze up to a 3-3. A swing for 6 drops Ferries down to 10. Michael play a tap land and pass it back. All the way still up at 15.
And that Stomping Ground there, that represents the requisite red mana to activate Raging Ravine on the following turn.
Yeah, that's a lethal attack.
Right. Action forced on Ryan's side here. One of the 3 cards in hand we know is Stomping Ground. That one's not going to help at all. And dealing 15 damage before this Tarmogoyf can come across, just by itself, assuming we could deal with these other creatures, that's already a pretty tall order for the burn deck.
Draws Searing Blaze, so he still actually has time to hit Scavenging Ooze with it if he has a land. It's only up to 3-3. So Looks like he'll do just that. Tap land, Searing Blaze. Michael Olson down to 12 and loses the Scavenging Ooze. But still, Ferries behind in the race. Huntmaster of the Fells picked up by Michael Olson.
And with that, this is easily a 2-turn clock, that extra 2 life. If the game was out of reach before, it's even worse now.
Right, Olson up to 14 here as he makes Huntmaster and a follow Wolf token to go with it.
I think we're going to see one more turn, and we're going to be going to game 3.
Land here. And yeah, Ryan, one more draw. But for the first time in the top 8, Ryan's going to have to play a game 3. As I don't see a way for him to get 14 before these creatures take over. He's going to fight, scrap for it a little bit here as he sends a bolt to that Huntmaster. But land into the graveyard here from Verdant Catacombs means we have, well, maybe we don't have a sorcery. I was going to say it means we have 4 card types.
Yeah, we've had land creature instant for
yeah,
pretty much the duration of the game.
But Raging Ravine can join on in. That'll do the damage.
Yeah, Ferries really needs a Triskai Decaphobia here.
Oh, man. Michael's dispatch.
Lightning Bolt Hatsuko's second right, but he's about to take lethal damage.
Yeah, Bloodbright Elf available too. Michael, tons of options. Collective Brutality is another one, and we'll pick up the cards. So a third game will happen. You see that? We passed that 15-minute mark for Ryan. He's going to have to fight for this.
That's bad news.
Yeah, uncharted territory.
This round is taking a dangerously long time. This is really going to test his stamina.
Ryan, though, will get to be back on the play here for the last game.
That's, again, just a huge deal.
Yeah, I mean, we saw there on the play, Michael Olson had a 3/4 Tarmogoyf before Ryan made a second land drop.
Right. Before he was able to cast that Monastery Swift Spear, so that Goyf was just already on blocking duty.
Right, and the Goyf was, the Goyf was in play for the entire game. Once it's at a 3/4, Ryan doesn't do a good job of removing it.
Right. It's really generally going to be a waste of resources to try to tag it.
Interesting on Ryan's side, a lot of times you'll see burn players with some copies of Path to Exile on their sideboard, not even registering them today.
Yeah, the card's not really great. It's off plan.
Yeah.
You're not just facing down creatures, you're facing down removal spells, so you're trying to clear a path. It's not like the Tarmogoyf really races your hands that toss a bunch of burn spells.
Yeah, I think I like what he's done here. So you're right, it's not great. It does 0 burn. A lot of times you see players boarded in with the, hey, I have to remove Tarmogoyf idea. But
yeah, I like it when you think my opponent might make a Gristlebrand on the second turn of the game.
Sure.
That's the spot where Path can really pay dividends and burn.
Well, what he's done is, I guess in the stock lists you'll see in burn, is these 2 Path to Exile you normally see in the sideboard. That's what he's cut to make room for 2 Ensnaring Bridges, which I actually like because in a lot of they're going to come in a lot of the same matchups. But when you're doing a plan as linear as burn, I guess something like Ensnaring Bridge that's either a big hit or a big miss feels better.
And we saw him leverage that bridge very effectively against humans here in the top 8.
Yeah.
A Path to Exile is not going to really break up that deck in any kind of meaningful way.
No, I mean, you saw what he did that game too, right? The bridge probably stopped 20 points of damage from coming in.
Right.
Yeah, that's the kind of effects that, something like a medium card like, or just like an efficiency card like Path to Exile is not going to do.
Mm-hmm. And Burn is a deck that does not want to sideboard too many cards, so high impact effects are really what you're in the market for.
Yeah, which is why I love, that just 4 Destructive Revelry has just become stock in the deck. Cards like that, which when it's good, it's great.
Right. Kind of funny that one of the big artifact decks right now has a little bit of built-in immunity to Revelry. Krark Clan Ironworks, a lot of the artifacts can just sacrifice themselves. You have some targets. You can hit a Mox Opal or whatever.
That's one of the difficult parts about Ironworks, is targeted removal spells for artifacts are medium against their deck. Even something like Ancient Grudge is pretty beatable for Ironworks.
Right.
And Ryan Ferries going to take a mulligan, and so will Michael Olson.
Burn mulligans a fair amount worse than Jund does, but you're at least happy that both players are going down.
Yeah, right, because Jund, even on a 5-card hand, can still just make a turn 2 Tarmogoyf, and that's gonna be pretty good.
Right. Yeah. Turn 1 discard, turn 2 Tarmogoyf. That's just 2 lands and 2 cards. You're not asking for that much. He also has the highest impact card in either deck in the post-sideboard games. From 6 cards, it's still not that hard to double escalate Collective Brutality. You're more likely to give up a resource that you care about, but just all 3 modes of that card are excellent.
So 6 cards each will be the setup for game for here. See if both players can keep on it. And that'll be good.
Not seeing any excitement, but
yeah,
both players seem fine.
Yeah, a lot still on the line here, and Ferries doesn't really carrying on that scry. He's cracking a fetch land on the first turn.
It's really the funny thing about that scry rule in fetch land formats.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
In decks that are really flush with 1-mana spells that aren't too interested in interacting, they'll almost never wait the turn to get that top card.
Ferries starting off. Monastery Swift Spear. First card into play. Puts Olson down to 19. Olson will have Blackleaf Cliffs. He did not have a 1-mana spell in the opener, but here's Inquisition of Kozilek. Something he picked up on the draw.
Yeah, it looks like there's another Cliffs in hand. There's a Huntmaster of the Fells down the line. That Inquisition's quite good, though.
Well, actually, it looks like also a Fatal Push. So he's actually going to delay that Inquisition so that he can push down Swift Spear. Ferries will attack on in. Michael, here's the removal spell.
This will be punishing if Ryan has Eidolon of the Great Revel.
Right. And he does. So did Olson keep a double removal spell hand? That's going to be the question. Yes, he's down to 17.
All right.
And I like this. 2 Blackleaf Cliffs, 2 pushes, and an Inquisition. This is pretty perfect for John.
That is an excellent 6. Oh, and this is not a good 6 for
No,
Burn.
takes a Lightning Bolt. Ryan's playing off the top. 2 lands, and he's got to get Michael Olson down from 17.
17 is huge, and Ryan drew us another land.
That is not going to help. Now, the question is, does Olson have a way to close? And you actually said there's a Huntmaster there.
Right.
That should do it by itself, but it looks like Michael has more plays.
Yeah, he'll need another land to get there, but it looks like he has something on this turn. Might be a Tarmogoyf.
This kind of hand, 3 cards that trade that deal no damage, lands that don't deal damage, Tarmogoyf, Huntmaster. This is just a disaster for Ryan.
Land, instant, sorcery, creature, enchantment.
We're already at 5-6?
Yeah. This will not take long.
All right. A tough setup here. Michael Olson in control. Ryan's hoping he can draw out of this. Ryan might draw a 3-point burn spell each turn, but Michael Olson's got a 5-point burn spell each turn on the board.
There's theoretically some play here if Ryan has those ensnaring bridges in.
Okay, yeah, he could draw a bridge.
I still don't know that he's going to be able to beat the Huntmaster. But that would be step 1.
Yeah, because he doesn't have a way to actually remove Tarmogoyf, and because of the life totals as they are, he can't really race it either. He'll make Eidolon, and that's not going to help him too much here.
No.
Mike will be happy to attack into that. Huntmaster of the Fells doesn't even trigger Eidolon. Neither
Right.
does the Bloodbraid Elf Michael Olson just picked up.
Well, does he have the 4th land is the thing. He does. There's an Overgrown Tomb.
Yeah, and on with life totals as they are, he's pretty happy to. He's willing to shock a land into play for this next one. Let's go down to 14, up to 16 with Huntmaster. Goes Michael.
And Ryan's last card, believe it's a land still.
So he might transform this. If he doesn't draw a spell, he's going to transform this creature for Michael Olson.
Right.
Okay, it's Lightning Helix.
Okay, I mean, he can tread water a little bit, but that's not a high enough impact effect.
Helix on the Huntmaster. Ryan goes up to 12, gaining 1, while taking 2 and gaining 3. Back to Michael Olson. 7 power in play. And Here's Bloodbraid Elf cascading into Scavenging Ooze. He'll take 2 damage if he casts it. He's considering skip passing. And from where we're sitting, it doesn't look like this choice really
It costs 2
matters,
life, and that's a Scavenging Ooze, and you're at 16.
He'll go to 14. He'll take it.
I get it. You're going to think about it. You're going to do it.
And a full attack. 5. Make that 10 damage. If Ryan doesn't block it, his own Eidolon locks him out of the game.
That's a yikes for me. That's you can trade with the Wolf token to eat more damage on the Tarmogoyf, and whichever you do, you're not going to be able to deal 14 damage.
Now he's going to take 7 trades with the Bloodbraid Elf, and he'll get 1 last draw, but that draw is not going to do it.
I think it was a Searing Blaze. Last I checked, that deals 3 damage.
And he'll extend the hand. So Michael Olson with Jund, after dropping game 1, finally hands Ryan Ferries his first loss in the top 8, and then hands him his second as your 8 seed.